of course, being like a Black woman, you're always constantly having to prove yourself. So I'm not as free as I would want to be to express myself with how I dress or with how I talk or with how I do my hair.
A sip of heeeyyyyyy.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Just kidding. Welcome back. Thank you guys for joining me again. For the category today, it's most difficult to write. So whatever poem or rap was the most difficult for me to write. Out of the 52 videos, in case you forgot, there were 52, that I dropped this year, I would say the most difficult to write was Freedom. Freedom is a poem that actually I wrote when I wasn't sure if I still wanted to be a lawyer. It was last year, and I was just feeling like I was losing my creativity. Like being a lawyer was stifling my artistic side or my creative side. And it was difficult because for the longest time, that's what I wanted to be, a lawyer, specifically a public defender. After I went through the phase of wanting to be a singer and a dancer and then a heart transplant coordinator, the next thing that I wanted to be, there was an engineer back there too. So after those phases, the most serious thing that I wanted to be was a public defender, specifically. That's what I wanted to do in undergrad. That's what I want to do in law school. That's literally what I do today. So that's what I wanted to do for the longest time. So when I wrote this poem, it was difficult because I was feeling like law school kind of took away some of my creativity because when you go to law school, when you write your exams, your professors are looking for a certain thing. They're looking for you to say it a certain way. That's how professors tend to grade. So I felt like law school wasn't a place for you to necessarily be creative in how you write or creative in how you think. Because they teach you a certain way and they test you on the way that they teach you. And then I was just feeling that again, being in practice, just that I wasn't able to be as creative or artistic as I wanted to. Of course, being like a Black woman, you're always constantly having to prove yourself. So I'm not as free as I would want to be to express myself with how I dress or with how I talk or with how I do my hair. And I am thankful that I do have a job that allows me to maintain some of my creativity because this is how I talk at work. This is how I talk at work. And granted, it's still, I can't say everything that I want to say, and I'm always conscious that I am a Black woman in my interactions. And I see it with how I interact with people, even if they're being disrespectful and they deserve to be yelled at. I can't because you can't be the angry Black woman. But I just feel like there's a lot of restrictions on me in the workplace as there is with anybody, but especially being a Black woman. So I do think that it kind of made me feel like I was losing some of my creativity. And like things about how you wear your hair. I dyed my hair, a judge made a comment about it, people made comments about it, but of course if a white coworker dyes their hair, everybody's like, oh, look so great, you look great, you know? There's definitely a difference. So I did feel like I was losing my freedom, hence the title. And I wasn't sure if it was worth it. I wasn't sure if being a lawyer, going to law school was worth losing some of that freedom. That's exactly what I was feeling at the time, and it was hard to admit because this is what I wanted to do, and I love being an attorney, but I had to think about whether or not it's worth it. And those thoughts still come to mind sometimes, and I don't know if I'll find an answer. But I think I also realized that, maybe you can't get everything you want or you need from your job. You got to make the most of it. And I love being an attorney. But yeah, sometimes I think about whether or not it's worth it. Whether or not it was worth it to be an attorney at the expense of losing some of my freedom. But that's like a hard thing to think about. And that's a hard thing to realize, especially when this is a career that you always wanted. So the most difficult to write out of the videos that I dropped this year would be Freedom. And if you haven't seen it, you should check it out now. I strip my words of character, cut them down to be brief, and dress them in the black letter of the law so they be bland enough to show my intelligence. I subjected them to severe scrutiny, allowed them to be dissected and graded like a high school girl, had them so self-conscious. I swallowed them, locked them behind the veins in my tongue because they weren't PC, they were schooled in the Big Apple. I submitted them to be judged to people whose tongues were too weak to hold their greatness and allowed them to tell me they weren't strong enough. I dressed them up so tight so they'd be acceptable, but never let them breathe at the end of the night. I traded my words for 2 letters on a piece of paper and believed it was really worth it, but now I feel like a hypocrite. I forced them to hide in the back of my throat, and now sometimes I can't find them. But I need them. They are a pop of color in a world of black and white. They stretch outside of the boundaries, connecting me to the world, had me thinking in cursive. Now I can't even understand a concept unless it's written in print. I had them locked away for so long that now I'm trying to help them re-enter, but sometimes they don't even recognize the light. I should have nurtured them, cradled them in my tongue, soothed them with my breath, and spoke them with the comfort of confidence, but I took them for granted. So now it's time to flow in the image of Maxine. Too verbose to be living single because my words are dripping like waters. They are reclaiming their time.